So why are people not speaking out? It is one of the questions at the heart of the growing problem of extortion in our country. The decision to blow the whistle on corruption and criminality can be daunting and life-threatening in South Africa. Whistleblowers have been killed, while some have been known to flee, fearing for their lives. Last year, the then Minister for Justice and Constitutional Development, Naledi Moleo, introduced key reforms to protect whistleblowers. This follows recommendations by the Zondo Commission into state capture. But let's talk more about the protection of whistleblowers, and for that we're joined by the former Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Jeffery. Former Deputy Minister, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Allow me to put you on the spot here, right, and ask you the question that we're asking to our viewers. In light of the way I suppose not just the legal framework, but things are set up in this country and how easy or difficult it is to be a whistleblower, would you, as things stand in South Africa, feel safe enough, former Deputy Minister, to be a whistleblower in 2024 South Africa?
Look, I think if you look at my history, I stood up when it was life-threatening, so I'm maybe not the best person to compare the issue to. But yes, I understand the issue of people who have information, who are whistleblowers, who should be witnesses, being afraid for their safety. But the issue is, as with the struggle, if everybody just keeps quiet, it just carries on.
Yeah. Have we got I suppose, a strong enough legal framework, though, to protect whistleblowers? And we can talk about its implementation later. But just I suppose, the legal institutions that are there to protect whistleblowers. I think, for instance, about, the Constitution. There'll be the Labour Relations Act, the Protection Against Harassment Act. Have we written enough to protect whistleblowers?
Well, as you referred earlier, the former Minister of Justice and the Department of Justice last year, I think it was in June, published a discussion document on furthering the protection of whistleblowers. And that had a closing date, and I assume that the department would be working on looking at putting amendments in. But I think I just need to clarify and unpack the law a bit, if you'll allow me.
Sure.
The main law on whistleblowers is the Protected Disclosures Act. But that is to protect whistleblowers at work who blow the whistle on things they see at work, and it's to protect them from detriment at work. And so it has been amended once. There's then proposals to amend it again. In the beginning, it was just employees. It's then been expanded in 2017 to include workers. But it's basically people employed by that company, organization, State Department, whatever. It doesn't deal with physical protection. And that's because that's really dealt with in a different way. That would be as part of the criminal process. So Protected Disclosures Act is protecting somebody from detriment at work, being dismissed, being harassed at work. Whereas if they become a witness in the criminal justice system, then they should be protected by the police, by the NPA. We've got the Witness Protection Act. However, that's quite a drastic measure because that entails removing the person from society, basically from where they've been, and placing them somewhere else for their own protection and the protection of their family. So it's in a sense two different issues. And when you talk about a whistleblower in a community, so you see somebody, maybe the municipality, doing something which looks like it could be corrupt, and you report it. Yes, you are a whistleblower, but in terms of the Protected Disclosures Act, you're not working for the municipality. Unless you're working for the municipality in some form or another, that act doesn't apply to you. You'd have to go to the police and look for some kind of security protection or witness protection if it's that drastic.
Yeah. Here's the reality, though, is that when you're in our very vulnerable communities, that legislation may not very well work, right? I mean, we're talking about communities, for instance, like Mthatha, where they are dealing with the local municipality and they're dealing with traditional leaders. And and then the extortionists. And there's a question around who's at the head of these extortion syndicates, and that becomes quite the discussion, right? But where do people in communities then go? For instance, you'd hear the police commissioner in the Eastern Cape say that they did open a helpline for those that want to come out and talk about extortion in the province, and they've only received 36 complaints. I mean, that's minuscule in comparison to how big of a problem it really is. Can we legislate that problem away?
Well, I don't know if it's something to be dealt with by legislation. I would imagine that the reason people are not reporting to the police or to the police helpline is probably that they don't trust the police. And they're worried that if they do report it, it'll leak out that they made this report. So the issue that really needs to be looked at is improving people's feelings of confidence or security in reporting a matter. So this then isn't really traditional protected disclosures, because most of those people are not employed by the municipality or working for the municipality in some form or other, or any other grouping, a group of extortionists or whatever. So one would need to look at ensuring that there is somewhere for people to go to report. I mean, I would have said, traditionally you report a crime to the police station, but there are perceptions, particularly, all over, that particular police at particular stations may have been maybe corrupt, may have been bought by people that are doing crime in that area. So the thing is to find other options. There is others. In the Protected Disclosures Act, it would be things like the Public Protector, the Chapter 9 institutions. A Public Protector obviously only applies where it's government, so it would apply to reporting wrongdoing by the municipality, but not by private individuals. But that's definitely something that needs to be looked at. The issue then of the provision of security to witnesses without having to give them without them having to leave society that they're in would need to be looked at. I think those are some of the remedies that need to be addressed in encouraging people to come forward. But maybe just going back to the Protected Disclosures Act, one of the amendments being looked at, so it's still, as I said, an act about people employed or working in some form for an organization. There are efforts to provide more legal support for whistleblowers if they get dismissed, somebody to oversee the process, a fund for greater protection, that kind of thing. And there's also the possibility, which was done in America, where you can get, if you succeed in a prosecution, you can get a percentage of the proceeds of what was recovered. The witness can get paid that.
Yeah, well, we are on the screen running some of the acts that speaks particularly to protecting whistleblowers. But we, of course, mentioned that last year in June, the Department of Justice did publish the discussion document, and really that sparked from recommendations made by the State Capture Commission. One of those recommendations, though, by the State Capture Commission was that there needed to be an incentive for whistleblowing. I don't know what that would look like, but where are we in talking about incentivizing whistleblowing?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I jumped the gun there a bit. That's what I was speaking about earlier, that there is that's been on the table for some time. It's something I understand that is provided for in America. I don't know how much it's used. I think it's been there a long time from the Civil War period. We do have, I understand, in our environmental legislation, provisions to give incentives to people who report wrongdoing when it comes to the pollution of the environment. But again, I don't know how much that has been used. So it is something being looked at. The one problem, though, is that our criminal justice system is really geared when it comes to the credibility of a witness, that they're giving the evidence because it's true, and they're not getting any incentive. So you'll often see a witness being asked in court, have you been paid anything? Do you have any motive? for giving this evidence. And obviously, if they're standing to benefit, the way, as I said, it would work is that, or the way it's meant to work is that in a criminal prosecution, if the case is successful and the evidence of the witness contributed significantly to that success, that they would get a portion of the money that was recovered or stolen, and that would be how it would work. But we've got to look government would need to look at quite carefully at how that is then going to be done. But it's something that's been on the table for some time.
Yeah, just one last question. I want to squeeze this in. We don't have a lot of time. But where would you rate our law enforcement's institutional integrity? And I'm talking about this from the position of the viewer who says, well, I've noted something, I want to report it. But do you trust the integrity of the platforms that are available for me to do so? Where would you rate them? Let's start. I think that's a great way for us to close things off.
Look, I'm not an expert in that, so I don't think it'll be much value me giving you a rating. But what I can say is I am aware that a lot of people in different communities at different police stations don't trust the police. Yeah. So, and that is understandable. And so what I'm really saying is that I think the police need to look at better systems. If it's going to be a toll-free number, which is a good innovation, they may need to take steps to ensure that people feel confident about this number, that there's somebody in a community that a matter can be reported to, those kinds of things. But it's something that needs to be addressed.
100%. We really appreciate the chat and important work, an important discussion as we grapple with criminality in our communities, getting closer and closer to people's homes as well. These organized crime syndicates. John Jeffery there, former Deputy Minister for Justice and Constitutional Development, speaking to us about where we stand right now in developing whistleblower laws in South Africa.